Alrighty, happy Wonder Wednesday, everyone. I hope you're doing well, whether you're watching this video now, right now, live on YouTube, or whether you'll be watching it in the future. I hope the sun is shining for you just as much as it's shining today here in London. You might be wondering, Claudia, why do you have to be so weird? Why are you wearing sunglasses? Well, I just wanted to show you that I've got some of these cool Floxies sunglasses. So yeah, that's how weird I am, but we can now take them off. Today's guest speaker will be Piccia Neri. She's an expert UX designer and speaker, and she will be talking about design, obviously, and accessible typography, which is a topic that we're all very keen to hear about. And you know, we can never have enough typography lessons in our lives. So let's go ahead and enter our gather town. Let me share my screen. Here we go. We've got one viewer. Hi, Warda. Lovely to see you. Thank you so much for being here. I hope to see you in our gather as well. So let's go ahead and join. Wow, today my avatar is matching my outfit, which is something I love. Because once again, today I'm a bit weird. All right, let's see. This looks fine. Join the gathering. I just wanted to ask you all if there's a particular topic that you would like us to discuss during our Wednesdays, please do let me know. Send me a message or, you know, just DM. I'm on Twitter, LinkedIn, everywhere, you name it. Just let me know and we will try and accommodate that for you. So let's get the subway. I can see there's some people here already. So let's join that conversation. I'm gonna go and sit there.
It's my kitties, especially the photo bombing by the kitties.
Yeah.
Hey girls.
Hi Claudia.
Lovely to see you all. How are we doing today?
Hi. Everyone's sick.
Oh, who's sick?
I've been.
Piccia's not feeling well, or
no. I'm finally well.
Okay.
Lorraine and Carmi, I think, are sick. So I was really sick until yesterday, but I'm not anymore.
I'm just stuffy. I'm just blowing my nose.
I think I've heard the news. Apparently, there's a new wave of COVID coming, but hey ho, let's hope it's not that. And Lorraine, is it your birthday today? Happy birthday! Happy birthday!
Happy birthday!
Oh, happy birthday!
Thank you very much.
That's amazing. I need to get a birthday cake.
Wonderful.
Well, during our talk today, I'll try and I'll run to the shop quickly and get a cake.
Yes.
All right. Well, that's great. Piccia, thank you so much for being here. People, if you haven't met Piccia yet, she's part of Floxies, but before being at Floxies, she's been navigating the design world for, so many years. She's an expert, and I'm so happy and honored to have you here with us, Piccia, today.
No, I'm honored to be here. I think this is I admire Claudia so much for what you've done with this. It's amazing. You managed to create a community of designers. When as Claudia was saying, I have been around for a bit longer than most of you. And when I lived in London for many years, and I looked for community there to find a design community. This was even before I was working on the web, and I just couldn't do it. I got involved with the Chartered Society of Designers in London. Absolutely useless, bunch of sexists. We're not. It's not recorded. We're not to YouTube yet, are we?
Yeah, we are. But hey, we need to speak. We need to speak up about these things. We need to speak up about.
Oh yeah, totally. So I would tell them to their face, no problem. So.
Hi, Penny.
And I actually found. Hi, Penny.
Hi.
Hi. So I found community within WordPress. Actually, I know that most of you are Webflow, but therefore I admire hugely what Claudia has been able to create and how consistent you are in keeping the community. I know that setting these things up every week is work. I mean, it really is work. And as I was saying, I hope you monetize it one day, because you should. You know, I would think it's fair enough. I would be happy to contribute.
To all the sponsors out there on YouTube, reach out.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's growing. It keeps growing. It's wonderful. It really is.
Well, it's all down to you, ladies, and everyone showing up here every week, and do what you like, and you won't be working a single day. And I truly believe that, and I'm here because I just enjoy myself. When I'm here for this hour, it's just a great time. If I've had a really bad day or a bad week, I know that I've got Wonder Wednesdays to pick me up. So it's reciprocal, one of them. Right, so I think people will be dropping in as it's 5 p.m. right now here in London, and this is usually when we people start dropping into the space. But Piccia, if you want to introduce yourself, maybe tell us a bit more about your experience and what the topic will be today. I know you were mentioning accessible typography, which is something that I would really love to learn, because as I was saying earlier in our introduction on YouTube, there's never enough typography lessons to be learning. So I'm very eager to hear what this is all about. And we got somebody coming into the room. Welcome, Graz. So yeah, stage is yours, Piccia.
Thank you. So my name is Piccia Neri, and I am Italian, born and bred, but I lived in London many years and moved from London to Spain, to Valencia, where I live now, in 2016. I've been a designer for a long time, and I started with book design, because when I finished university, where I actually studied history of art and art, I set up a publishing company with some friends that I'd met working in an art gallery. So we set up a publishing company for the arts, because in the 90s in Italy, every single little gallery that would set up, even the smallest show, would publish a catalogue. And to be honest, we had so much fun. It was wonderful. But I started more on the editing side, and then but everyone was doing everything. So I was, that's how I learned how to design. And then I stayed in book design when I moved to London, and I was lucky enough to work with the National Gallery, Tate Gallery, and design catalogs for this kind of people. And then I was also freelancing a lot at the Sunday Times magazine. So it's all places where typography plays a huge role. And then I started freelancing in, various agencies. And then I worked at the British Film Festival doing the creative direction, not the British Film Festival. What am I saying? The British Film Institute, that also has the London Film Festival. So, and I was doing that creative direction there, and that was completely creative design. It was totally different. And then I started, I moved to the web, because I started, as many designers do, wanting to have my own website. So I started learning about it, learning HTML, learning CSS, and then I stumbled upon WordPress, because it was the obvious thing to use at the time, and started realizing that it was a bloody difficult tool, and started learning it. And so I just got stuck there. And then I thought, actually, you know what? This is my next challenge. This is what I want to do. But it really struck me how profoundly different it is to design for the web than it is to creative design, branding, because I also done a hell of a lot. Bye, Penny. It was lovely to see you. Thank you so much for popping in.
Yeah, good to see you too. Take it easy.
Bye-bye. So, and I feel like this is an important preamble, because I see every single site that is unusable and inaccessible usually was created by a creative designer that hasn't taken the time to, work out that it's actually different on the web. And I was one of them. I used to have rows with my developer friends, because I was like, no, I want that typeface. And they were like, well, you can't have it. Especially, 2003, and they would say, no, what do you mean I can't have it? And so I even didn't want to design for the web, because I thought I can't use these horrible typefaces, because I was all about what's pretty, and I've changed hugely in that sense. So the reason why I want to talk about typography today, and in general, I'm fixated with typography, and spoiler alert, I do have at the very, 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 very bottom of all of this, I am selling a course at the moment. I mean, I have a course that will be there forever. I'm not going to stop selling it. I have a little bit of a special offer for Floxies. So I will tell you about it, but this is not what the presentation is about. The presentation is about typography. So, but it's about empathy as well, because really, if you think about it, if you have a look at any website, it's all about typography. And when you don't take typography seriously, then you basically are cutting out a really vast percentage of the population. So the reason why, my attachment to typography is from my print days, obviously, in book design and magazine design. And now that we have this wonderful, wonderful array of, we even have the variable fonts opportunity now on the web. We can, it's so much more fun now to design for the web than it was, 20 years ago or even 10 years ago. So if you want to be accessible, which is my fixation, and when you get started with accessibility, you can't stop basically, then you have to start from typography, because it's basically the first thing. And because I'm not sure whether this presentation is too long or too short, so I think I should start it. So, just to be, so how do I do this? Screen share. I probably should just share. I'm wondering, let me see if I can do this. So if I share, I'll play the presentation. No, hang on, sorry.
No worries.
I should have, because if I
you can share, there's a bottom option, a bottom bar that says screen share. You can share your screen. You might have to give it some permissions, but don't worry, just...
No, but so that's my mistake, because I should have checked this before, because if I can share the screen, but if I put Keynote full screen, it takes both my screens. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
But I know what to do. If you just have,
yeah, no worries. We can have, we can just have a conversation here with the people. So is anyone here interested in typography? I hope you are. And also I was thinking, being able to be a designer back then must have been, obviously you're saying now it's way more exciting to do web design now, but I think to be able to almost structure and pave the way to our designs today must have been really, really exciting. Karma is a lizard.
Yep, just ignore that. I think we should do this. Every time someone presents, we have to drink our bottle of water.
Yes.
Because I never drink enough water anyways, because it's health, Just want to say something. I also started in, I worked for publishers when I first started, and it was my favorite job up to date. I just loved designing print books. That was when print was
great.
Still the main thing. It's my favorite thing to do, like book layouts.
I really miss it. I really, really miss it. And I am starting to go back to my contacts saying, hi, can we talk again? It's so much easier than designing for the web, actually.
Yeah,
it's so much easier.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay. So yeah, I got it now. Now we've got it. Perfect. Because all I did was I exported to HTML. And that's it. So I can share now. I can oh God, I've got too many open things. Sorry.
It's good to know that people are interested in book design, because I might have to talk to you after, secret plans, Claudia's crazy ideas. Take number 125. Girls, look, I just bought these Floxies sunglasses today because I thought it reminded me of Floxies. Silly me. Hi, Maria. Thank you for joining us from your phone. You're becoming a digital nomad, aren't you?
I was at a coffee shop, but then someone got on the roof and started spraying pesticides, and I was like, I think I'm gonna go home.
Yeah, we can't lose you, Carmia.
It's
In a brilliant move, I managed to log myself out somehow. But anyway, I'm back now. I am truly ready. Okay.
Awesome.
Now,
that was smooth. Nobody noticed. I did.
Oh,
but
was
I was
it? Oh, that's quite clever. So it's not. I don't understand why. So select Windows screen. I don't know why it's not seeing. I don't know if it's seeing my Safari because I don't actually. Okay. I'll see if so screen what? Screen 2. Let's see.
I'm going to say hello to Prachi and UX Vocal Club and Warda. They are following us on YouTube. Hi, people. Thank you for being there.
Apologies for my... Yeah. Okay, so I think this is the best I can do for the moment. I hope it's okay.
We can see. Yeah, we can see. I can see.
Okay, great. It's not... let me just say view.
That's fine. You know, we can just.
Full screen is Safari. It's fine. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, because we need to get started. Apologies. Okay, here we are. So design for conversions with accessible typography. And my angle is actually a bit of a maybe unusual one. I want to start from a different conversation. So this is a cycling path in the city where I live in Valencia. And I mean, what kind of experience is this? This is just really, really, really terrible. Not only is the path tiled, it also ends in a wall. So this is not an experience that is recommended to anyone. Compared with this experience in the Netherlands, I mean, it probably rains there and it doesn't rain as much here, but wow, look at how amazing comparison with this and this. And I always like to make the comparison between experiences in life and on the web, because it is very similar, because basically a crap experience will send your users away in the same way that you will never go on that cycling path again once it's ended up on a wall. So, and this is a bit of an extreme online equivalent to the cycling path that we saw before. So basically, there's a lack of clarity, lack of usability, lack of trust, lack of care for the user, and lack of accessibility, which is exactly what happened in the cycling path before. So now another extreme, let's see if it plays the video, because this is, so it's a video. Another extreme is this. This is Prince's website. Look at this. It's just, that one was like the old web version, and this one is an equally confusing experience that has amazing typography, but it's absolutely terrible. This is what happens in real time when you try and visit this website. It's crazy. It's actually, but it's beautiful. You know, you can't say that it isn't beautiful. It is very, very beautiful, but it just drives you insane. It's very difficult, and it's very difficult to use. And then, I mean, it gets worse. It just, because you get sent to these other places. The mouse, the tooltip is actually this, which is extremely confusing. Then it turns into a dot, and then, but look at the typography. Isn't the typography pretty? So, and here the tooltip is actually becomes the cover of the album that you hover over. I can only imagine the prowess, the technical prowess that is needed to even achieve something like this. And this is clearly, where did I find this website? It was on the awards website, the AWWW. And it's it's a treasure trove of websites like this that are absolutely beautiful, stunningly creative, and completely unusable. And it's very difficult to even actually find out what you want to find out about Prince and his discography. Beautiful, stunning typography and so on. But that's same as the website that we saw before. Lack of clarity, lack of usability, even worse, lack of accessibility, lack of trust, because I'm driving, you're driving me insane, basically, and lack of care for the user. This is all it is about, is how to wow people with things that are not actually useful for me as the user. So what's the answer to this? Well, design is the answer. So when you're lacking all these things, it means that, in fact, even if you would think that the design was the main thing that we just saw, but that's not true. It's ultimately when you lack empathy so much, when you lack care for the user so much, it's lack of design and lack of good UX. And I don't care if you've won an award. So I want to tell you the Airbnb story. You may know it or not. And they really did go stratospheric by putting people first, because my whole point is, let's put people first. So this is what it looked like from the Wayback Machine around 2009. There was one thing that really didn't work here. And the main thing was, would you stay here? Would you want to spend time with these people? Would you trust them? At the time, the concept was really, really new. It wasn't easy to think, okay, I'm just going to go and stay in someone's house. Couch surfing existed, but it was for free, and it was a completely different story. So what happened to Airbnb is that they thought they would grow, but they just were not growing. They were not seeing the growth that they were expecting, especially in places such as New York, which is so expensive. Because let's remind ourselves of the concept. It was created because these the founders were young people who wanted to go to conferences and found it really expensive in cities like San Francisco or Los Angeles or New York, or really expensive American cities. So what they thought was, wouldn't it be great, we have an extra airbed, we could rent it out to people and make it really cheap. That was the concept. So you were actually staying in people's houses. And so they were like, why isn't it growing in New York, which is such an expensive city with so much going on that people want to go to so much? And I just couldn't. So what they did, instead of saying, oh, okay, let's buy more Google ads, let's throw money at it. What they did was they started talking to their users. And what they found out was that there was a huge problem, which was the photography, because this was way before smartphones. And so the people just didn't, there was no trust. These horrible photos of, dark and with really bad portraits, people just didn't feel like they would trust the app enough to go and stay in these places. So what they did is they went on the ground, they bought photographic equipment, and they actually started doing it themselves. But they spoke to both the people renting the houses and the people wanting to rent the houses, which is often the same people. So this is what their growth looks like. And the massive, massive growth happened in 2010. And that's when they introduced photographers. And I know that because I was living in London at the time. I had a spare room. They sent me a photographer, which was great because he was also checking that I was effectively who I said I was, and that my room looked nice, and it wasn't a hovel, and so, which I wish they still did, because they don't and they should. So massive, massive growth, and this is where we are now. And it literally, they say it in various interviews that that's what made the huge difference. And that's the big UX lesson. They went stratospheric as a result of putting themselves in the shoes of the human beings needing and using their service. Because you have to start thinking about users as humans, as actual people with real problems, because if you start doing this, you will be better able to find solutions for them. And then suddenly accessibility will seem like not a luxury or an afterthought. It will have to be the thing that you start from. So how can you do that? What is the crucial ingredient of good UX, of starting to see people as humans rather than users? Think of humans rather than users. Well, it's empathy, really. It's putting yourself in your user's shoes from the very beginning. Do you know who Brené Brown is? She has this, she's quite famous. She has this big, she's a university professor, and she talks about empathy and vulnerability a lot. And she has a metaphor for the difference between sympathy and empathy, because people mistake them a lot. So the sympathy is when you can look at someone who's down a hole and you say to them, yeah, sorry, you're in a hole, it sucks, but basically just shrug and, go along your merry way. But empathy is like seeing them down there, dropping a ladder, climbing down, being in the hole with them, but also knowing that you have the ladder to get out. That's what the difference is. Because empathy finds solutions, but sympathy usually doesn't. It's like, yeah, it sucks. Bye. That's the way it works. So when we are on the web, we must use empathy, and we must start thinking of people. Imagine that we are someone who has no idea how the web works. We can't take for granted because that everybody knows how it works, because to my mother, this is what it looks like. So we have it in our power to make it look like this. And I mean, to me, that Prince website looked like this just as much as the previous website did. So the two extremes. So how do we do that? Well, let's start practicing being someone who doesn't experience reality the way we do. So for instance, you can start imagining being someone who is blind and perhaps checking your designs while wearing a blindfold using a screen reader. Practice being deaf, because that's something else that's super important when we think about the web, and typography plays a big part in it. But it's not just this type, we'll see it in a bit, but then practice color blindness. Imagine being someone who can't see color. Make sure that you check everything like that. For instance, this is a website that looks like it's got huge color differences, but once you look at it in black and white, the colors, these two colors at the bottom actually sort of blend into one another because they have very similar brightness. So even though they look completely different, if you see hue, but if you don't see hue, which is another way to say color, then the brightness makes certain colors very, very similar. So let's practice being different ways of experiencing the world, like being someone who's dyslexic or neurodivergent. This would influence hugely the way you present your content, because not everybody sees it in the same way. So let's practice. That's the insert image here that I haven't taken out. Bye. So basically with empathy,
I'm going to interrupt you just 1 second. Sorry. It's just your mic is making like a buzzing noise. Just.
Or is it? Is it better?
Yeah, there's just, I think so. It's just when you talk, sometimes it goes a bit like buzzy. But
okay. That's strange. I'm wondering if I should be using a different browser.
No, it's more,
is it?
It's not too annoying. It's just like it sounds, if you're, when you're plugging a jack and it's like halfway in, that's how what it sounds like. But better that than silence. Yeah, Aida's saying in the chat as well, something sounds very grainy. I can't hear you now, but no. You can check your microphone settings as well at the bottom of Gather in the bar. But this was really, so far I'm loving it. It's very interesting. And there's always room for conversation when there's, like, as you're saying, awards winning websites. They're really beautiful to look at, but how accessible are they? If you look on your at the bottom of Gather Town in the bar, there's a microphone, and there's like an arrow pointing down. You can check what device you have plugged in. Carmia says there's a thing that says ugly website convert. No. I'm gonna have a look around the table because I can see there's more people joining us. So that's great. It's great to see Diletta, Canella's here. Awesome. Katrina, Stephanie, who else has arrived? Can't read your name. Yeah. So girls, if you've just joined us, or if you've been following a bit of the presentation, we were just talking about accessible design, and we were looking at beautiful websites, like awards winning websites, like the one from Prince, for example. And we were just having this conversation on, they look absolutely stunning and they're beautiful websites, but what if you had some kind of impairment? What if you're blind? What if you've got a hearing impairment? So how accessible are those websites really? So yeah, we were just talking about that, and we might have lost Piccia. Piccia, do you want to relog? Exit Gather and come back. And let me have a look. Yeah. So yeah, I agree. UX vocab club. It wasn't like that at the beginning. It just started. So yeah, has anyone here got any experience with accessible design or designing accessible websites? Is that something that you bear in mind when you're doing your UX UI designs? Is that something that your company, if you're working for a company, is that something that they require that you think about? Because it should be really good practice to just be thinking about those accessibility tips. Let's see. You can either use the chat if you want to interact in the chat here on Gather, or feel free to jump on your mics and we can have a conversation about that as well. Whilst Piccia is relogging. Yeah, somebody's here. Who's talking? Carmia.
I can talk. We try to always add alt text for pictures and everything, and also making sure that you have an H1, H2, H3, only one of each sort of, just for someone with a screen reader so that they can understand. We can do better with the contrast and more things, but that's one thing that I do, just making sure with the alt text and the hierarchy when building your site. I could be better.
Yeah, I try to do that as well. Even when I'm posting a picture now on LinkedIn or Twitter, now you can add the alt text as well, which
cool.
Yeah, it's really nice. And if you're developing websites on Webflow, you now have in the visual interface an option to see how other people are seeing the website that you're designing. So that's also really helpful. It's something that we're definitely integrating in our best practice when you're designing, to just have a look and see how that particular design responds to different types of, you know, site or whatever it is. So that's,
Yeah, and something that's kind of easy where I am, my boss is colorblind. So he immediately is like, well, that doesn't work, you know? So that helps if you have a colorblind person with you, I guess. Just immediately the contrast doesn't work.
Yeah, I wonder if there's like specific, you know, when people do UX research and they test their designs for people, are there maybe specific groups of people that you can seek out and like just test your designs with them? Like, as you're saying, your boss is colorblind. Is there maybe a group of people that can test accessibility? Maybe that, you know, that's something that we could think about as well, to have.
There should be.
Yeah, that'd be nice. Just
Yeah.
instead of being your common user, you know, just like, oh, can you please test my website? You can have somebody that can test just for accessibility. That would be cool.
I'm sure Mirella knows.
Yeah. If only she was here.
It's not accessible.
Young Lin is saying, I think another thing is to follow the accessibility standards. There are online tools to check for color contrast. Yes, there are. That's very true. We got somebody anonymous. Okay, Piccia is back. Welcome, Piccia.
God, sorry.
No worries. I can hear you fine. I can see you. Let's.
Okay.
Yeah,
I think
it's fine.
it was Firefox. I think it was Firefox. Really, a big apologies.
No worries at all. I can
so,
hear you perfectly fine now.
Good. I think it was the browser. Okay, so now I know GatherTown likes Chrome better.
Yeah.
Okay, so back to where we were. Sorry about the interruption.
No worries.
So basically, when we start practicing empathy, picking up where we left off, we realize that we all need accessible products, because with clients, is this moving now? Yeah. The problem is with clients that they say things like, oh, nobody blind uses my site and things like that. But in fact, there are many temporary or situational disabilities that we all have to deal with on a daily basis. Like, for instance, if you're on public transport and you've forgotten your headphones and you can't watch a video unless it has subtitles. So you don't need to be deaf actually to need subtitles. Or if you're a new parent holding a child, that's one of the examples that people make more frequently. You've only got one hand and maybe you can't use the mouse, you need to use the keyboard and so on. So what we need to do is empower our users. It's even more important than understanding, because with empathy, we can create solutions that solve a need, but also empower our users' life. And this is what compassionate empathy is. It's when we feel someone's pain and we take action to help. So this is how we should approach designing on the web. That's my big point. I'll give you this fabulous example of compassionate empathy, which is a hospital in Spain, in Bilbao, where they had this big problem of kids being so terrified when they were taken to the operating theatre. They would just like freeze or have big crises. And it's awful for everyone and makes life really hard for the surgeons and for the nurses. So what they did is they got these electrical toy cars that the kids are taken to the operating theatre in, and that's one of the best examples I can think of compassionate empathy at work, because everybody's empowered and it fulfills every single level of interaction. It fulfills the look, it fulfills the way it feels, it fulfills the usability because it's perfectly usable, and also it inserts fun and well-being. So a potentially horrendous situation is transformed in an opportunity for fun. So this is compassionate empathy at work. So how can we practice empathy? Well, I say start from typography today, actually. That's what I'm saying, because why am I saying that? Why start from typography? Well, because it's the first thing that you use to see, really. It's an essential factor of UX, and it's arguably the most important element of a page, because most of the internet is still written language. They say 95%, which is a figure that nobody can really prove, but it's likely to be correct. Now, if you look at any Facebook feed, this is what it looks like with type, but if you take all the type out, you don't understand anything. If you took the images out, you could still understand it, but if you take the text out, you can't understand it. So you could do Facebook with just copy, but you couldn't do it without it, basically. So text is a really important UI element. If buttons, forms, tooltips, and other UI elements are all a part of typography, and they all need to be considered from the point of view of accessibility. Because something else that type conveys language, conveys meaning, intention, psychology, and it drives sales. Now, note that today I'm not going to talk about other aspects of type, that are the branding and so on, because we don't have all night, so I can't do that. But it definitely drives sales, because it's essential to all types of comprehension. Text is the first step to make the web accessible to everyone, because it's how you display text will make or break your digital products, without a doubt. This is an example of a friend of mine who had this sales page for an online event that, I mean, it has, even without looking too closely, it has quite a few typography issues here. What would you say? I'm sure that you can already tell. What would you say would be the first problem that you see with this sales page?
Font size.
Font size for sure, and also
the contrast in that button.
Contrast is really bad. And then also the alignment is all wonky. It's not leading the eye. Lines are super long. There's so much. So I gave just a few tips to this friend of mine, and he was pinching himself the next day because he had a 400% increase in conversions. It was incredible. He still talks about it, and it was very simple implementation of a few tips.
That's amazing. Are we gonna see the final result?
Well, no, because he didn't know. It's a shame. I don't have it, but it was super simple. I just said, align that, make that text tighter. You can't read the text on the button. Align the button, make the text, because also another aspect is that it says get a free pass up there, and it says register now for free down here, but the buttons do the same thing. So there's no consistency in the copy, and people were getting confused. They didn't know where to go. So he sorted that out as well, a few things, and so that was amazing. So it's more important than you think, because it will also, the way you display text will determine whether your product is accessible. Because what we saw earlier was UX, user flow, cognitive load as well, because when something is difficult to look at, it takes us longer to pass it, even if we don't have any cognitive impairment, and we just don't take action instead. So another way to persuade clients for the case of accessibility is the business case for accessibility, which is huge. There's I don't know if you ever heard of the purple pound. It's basically the spending power of disabled households, and these figures come from the We Are Purple website, but these are the disabled households in the UK. It doesn't even consider the temporary and situational disabilities that we all experience, as we were saying, on a daily basis. So it's absolutely huge. And when people say ugly sites convert, well, it depends if ugly also means usable or not usable, because maybe they do convert, but think how much more they would convert if they were actually properly accessible and usable. So let's talk about empathic typography. Now, the steps that I'm going to describe here, if it really depends on your level, you could consider them basic, and they are, but it's things to bear in mind to start with. First of all, and this is not a typographical piece of advice, is a generic piece of advice, involve users from the beginning of the process. Depending on what type of clients you have, this would seem obvious if you do UX, and yet it's one of the most difficult things to do, to persuade clients to actually speak to the users. And I'm talking from experience. So start from research. Because that would mean that you don't rely on the personal preference when you make decisions, because they're based on what customers actually need rather than on personal preference. And the research is a fundamental tool when you go choosing typography. So follow a UX process that starts with research and that actually ends with research. And this is what my process looks like. It's research, design, followed by validation, but it's not a linear process, and it goes back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. But it's how you make your design human-centered. It's how we place people at the center. And research actually never stops, because even when you test and you validate and you do A/B testing after you've launched something, for instance, or you check your analytics and make changes based on that, that's still research. And it's how we place people at the center. And to me, the difference in attitude is serve the people, don't serve the business, because that's how you are actually going to make the big bucks, in my experience and in my opinion. And that's exactly what Airbnb did. Of the process, that's what it was missing. So second step, so that's the first step, research for everything, including empathic typography. The second step is start from content. And I don't know if you already do this. Again, I don't know whether this seems obvious to you or not, but when I go on the web and I check, I see that very few sites do this. So start from content. What do you think that means? What do you think? What would you say it is for you, Claudia, if I say start from content?
So after you do your research, maybe, so once you have a persona, what kind of things would that user be interested in? So like the keywords, is that right?
There's that as well, but then when you lay the content on the page, what you really need to think about is HTML hierarchy, right, to create a logical outline. Because, and I'm sorry, it wasn't meant to be a
interrogation
question, but it's amazing because and I see that as typography, and I'll explain to you why. So the reason why HTML hierarchy is absolutely essential to good typography and good content is that screen readers depend on good HTML hierarchy, because if you use your headings correctly and your HTML tags correctly, then a screen reader is able to organize the content, and so someone who uses a screen reader knows what the page is about, and they can check out whether they're interested or not, and they know where to go to. Whereas we can have, so Kanye say arguments I have all the time. Content first and design. I absolutely agree with that, without a doubt. Because guess what? One of the side effects is it's good for SEO, because clearly with SEO, it's one of the recommendations. So this is the accessibility, the Ally project. I find it actually really, I still can't get my head around the fact that A11Y, is it a symbol? Stands for accessibility, and I never know how to pronounce it, so I find it actually quite non-accessible. But their website is really interesting to look at. So let me I need to go. Yeah, this is it. This is what I need. So now this is a tool that I use to check the accessibility of sites. It's a web aim tool. So there's no perfect site. It's impossible to get a perfectly accessible site. So they have alerts even, and also these tools can tell you a lot, but they don't tell you everything. There's also that to be said. But when we look at it, we can look at the structure here. So if you look at the structure, look how everything is so clear. They have their one H1, that's it, H2s and H3s and their paragraphs, and they don't use H2s and H3s to style things that they want to look like. You know, they don't use HTML to style anything. So this means that if a screen reader comes here, they're able to work out what they need immediately. You know, the user of a screen reader user. So don't use semantic HTML to style elements. Basically, yes.
Was that a plugin that you use, an extension to your browser?
Yeah, it's a browser extension that you can find on the webaim.org website.
Cool, thank you. I'll look that up and I'll share it in the chat.
Yeah, do that. It's webaim.org. So don't use semantic HTML to style elements. There are better ways, and make sure that the structure makes sense, and that will help your SEO as well. So now this is an example of another super creative website that I'm trying to use it, and I literally haven't done anything. It just does it all by itself. So I can't control it. If I am a keyboard user, the only thing I can do is go up and down. I can't actually use it with a keyboard. And when I look at the structure, it has zero contrast errors, brilliant. But look at the structure, it has no structure, nothing. But it does have a lot of stuff going on that doesn't even appear. Look, that's all you've got. So if someone who's using a screen reader comes here, I don't know what they can see. They can't see anything at all. So, and then when you go, actually, this is not what I wanted to do. But then if you look at the images, one thing that is, no, I'm actually unable. Oh, see, for instance, here, I want to go on that image now and I can't do it. So it's not a usable site. Beautiful typography, looks amazing, not usable. And also another thing that it has is that images don't have, by the way, it's not quite typography, but still it's really important for accessibility. And as it's text and content, I sort of group it in with typography, is alternative text. None of the images on that website have alternative text, because there are still places, but I wanted to show you a page that I haven't been able to go back to, because it's another one of those super creative websites that gets awards, because they do look amazing. Hats off to the creativity and to the beauty, but they're not usable. So use alternative text for all your images. Another, once again, great for SEO. If you are doing an e-commerce website, think how much easier it will be to find your products and therefore sell more. And if I hope you're doing this, use real text, never text on an image. But in case it happens, because sometimes clients will do that, you know, you have your beautiful quotes, simply make sure that you describe it correctly in the alt text. This is absolutely essential. So even though it's not strictly speaking typography, to me, it's important to say. So third step is use good alignment. This is one of the other things that I see all the time. Don't be tempted. Basically, centered alignment causes accessibility issues. It's no alignment. Centered alignment basically is like, you might as well not align. If you look at this website, which is another amazing museum website that looks fantastic, incredible colors, super creative, lots of things moving. But if you look at this very, very simple page, which is the visitor info, which it's center text on various grids. So it's actually quite, all of it is wonky, and trying to work out the information is quite hard. And if you're dyslexic, your eyes trying, or neurodivergent, or even because alignment basically helps to anchor the site. So even people with sight impairments find centered alignment hell, because they're trying to work out where things are and they can't. So this is what the journey that the eye does, is this one is just there's no point. So if you simply do this, when it decides to move, look, oops, too much. Go back now, please. Yes. Even just aligning, I mean, it still needs hierarchy. It's not perfect by any means, but even just aligning it, I think you would agree that it makes the information much more accessible and easier to detect, to pass. So ask yourself, basically, is it a wedding invitation? If the answer is no, do not send the text. It's just don't do it. You need to, it's common sense. It's simple common sense. Align according to the text direction in the main language, because we are obviously Western centric. Starts from the left, align to the left. Point. Yeah, the main language. If you're typesetting a language that starts from the right, then by all means. Fourth step towards empathic typography is limit the number of typefaces and fonts. And by the way, when in doubt, just use one typeface. That's a really good idea, because if you use the right one, you will have plenty of opportunities to create text hierarchy and differentiation. So another brief aside, I don't know if you know the difference between typeface and font. It doesn't matter that much. It matters a little bit. And I have an article here that explains it that you can share if you want later, Claudia. Basically, typeface is a family of fonts, and a font is each character, each variation of a character, the size, the weight, the style, as if it's in italics or not. That's a font, and it comes from when type was actually every single letter that you saw here was an individual lead character. So this is, for instance, this is a typeface that I love. It's not perfect, and I'll tell you why later, but I love it because it has so many styles and weights. So it means that I can use just one typeface and have no problem creating all my text hierarchy and differentiation, and design with just typography. I can design with this with basically no images. I can design. So the fifth step towards empathic typography, because by the way, I keep saying empathic because all we're doing here with this type of empathy is we're helping people to not think, to think less. We're lessening the cognitive load, and this helps everyone, even those of us who don't identify as having any disabilities. We are all helped out by this, without a doubt. Anyway, step 5, when picking a typeface, check contrast, X height, ascenders and descenders. Again, this is something that if you maybe you know this already because you know about typography, but in case you don't, let me tell you, type anatomy does matter. It's not just boring detail or nerdishness. X height is the height of lowercase letters in a typeface measured on the letter X, and you see it in the bottom row there. And it's a factor in readability and also in pairing typefaces. Ascenders and descenders are the top and bottom bits of letters such as K. So the K here has an ascender, and the Q has a descender, and the B has an ascender, and so does the F. Why is it important? Because if a typeface has low X height and very long ascenders and descenders, you're going to have to choose a higher leading, a higher line height, and that will mean that there's too much space, or it will mean that the ascenders and descenders clash, and therefore it'd be very difficult to choose the right alignment and have tight, beautifully looking blocks of text. Now this one's here, but I think it should have been, contrast, yes. No, yeah, it's right. Because this typeface that I love so much actually is not perfect. I shouldn't be using this because it has too much contrast. What do I mean by contrast? Let me see if I can actually, yeah, if I make it bigger, you can see, no, you can't. So this typeface in certain browsers, it kind of looks all right here, but it has a lot of contrast in the anatomy of the type. That means that there are very thick lines, very thick strokes and very thin strokes. So that means that someone who has trouble focusing will not see the thin bits, the bits that are just literally 1 pixel wide. So my vanity makes me use it, and I'm using it at a really big size because I think that at this size I'm sort of safer, but it's not entirely safe. But I'll forgive myself for this time. I will have to change it. But 6th step is avoid visual clutter. And this to me is visual clutter. I'm really surprised that, sorry, I'm gonna take a sip of water. The Ali project, I think you can call it Ali or Ally.
Yeah, we got a tip from YouTube. UX Vocal Club says that apparently it's an abbreviation because accessibility's got 11 characters. So that's why.
Yeah, I know it is, but I'm always unsure on how to read it. So,
yeah,
but yeah, of course. Yeah, thank you, whoever said that. So I feel like this is visual clutter to me. It's I feel like the typographical background really fights with the information that's in the front, and my brain struggles to work out what is more relevant, especially because they're using this really bright pink. It's not a criticism. What we do in the web is we test. So they may change that, or maybe it works for that. Do you know what I mean? But that's the type. I wouldn't feel safe with this type of visual clutter. This is another example of visual clutter. This is a website that I'm about to redesign. Interestingly enough, out of all the things that I've said, do you notice something? They do follow one advice that I've given. Which one? Can you tell? Again, not meant to be a trick question. There's one thing they are doing.
The same button text.
Yeah, I don't know what someone said same. Yeah, same type.
Sorry, I'm having like an allergy attack, so same button.
Okay, sorry.
It's not my
okay. Yes, exactly. They are using the same typeface, but still, because also the same typeface means much faster, by the way. So better UX, because we know how important speed is. But by the way, so they have the accessibility in that sense, and they told me that they are sticking to system fonts, which I'm absolutely fine with because of accessibility. But what they're failing with is the way they're presenting their text, because the way the visual display of the text is completely cluttered and does not help the cognitive load at all, because it may be the same typeface, but look how many fonts. So if I count one typeface, but I count, and I'm not counting the logo, doesn't count, but if you consider a font is a weight and a size, there are about 20 different ones here. So, and also the way they use the white space, the alignment, of course, is completely wonky, but the way they use the white space as well, which is a very important element of typography, and white space is what you have on the page itself. That's macro white space, but it's also there's macro and micro white space, which is the kerning, the tracking, the distance between paragraphs and so on, and that's not thought out at all here. So also, if you use system fonts, they're not, the distance between, the separation between each word is all over the place. Because I mean, I visualize as Helvetica. This is a Helvetica screenshot, but Helvetica is a problematic typeface. It has issues because the kerning is shite, basically. So these are all things that you need to consider. So I'm going to tighten this up, and I'm going to have so much fun doing it without having to worry about the pretty typeface, just using the system fonts and proving that you can achieve a really, really effective layout just with a system font. I can't wait to get started with this. 7th step is avoid fancy typefaces and weird scripts. And I know that marketplaces such as Creative Market have all these amazing typefaces, but there are so many reasons why you shouldn't go for them. Now, fancy fonts and scripts cause accessibility issues on a number of levels, because look at this. I mean, it's not readable. I mean, obviously I'm choosing a particularly extreme example, but the problem is that a lot of these letters look like something else. Like the T looks like a cross, for instance.
To me, this is like a video game. You have to like find out what's written.
Yes, absolutely. But a lot of scripts of, typefaces that imitate handwriting have huge issues. But there's certain types of branding that, at some point it was very popular among female entrepreneurs, and it still is to a point, to have scripts, and often they're not readable. So do you want to sell, or do you want to have a pretty script? So this makes it much easier, but there's a problem, because actually I'm going to talk about the second problem later, but this is an example of a really important website. It's called Push-Up Film, and it talks about the criminalization of Black girls in schools, but it does so using a typeface that is half uppercase and half lowercase. Also, when you use uppercase, it has a number of issues from the accessibility point of view. One of them is that someone dyslexic needs ascenders and descenders to differentiate, because here is every line and every word is like a rectangular block. You can't really tell them apart. So that's one issue, one of many issues. Because also when you use all caps, I mean, this is, the typeface isn't actually all caps, but when you use all caps, even when you style it in CSS properly, screen readers tend to read all caps as acronyms. So they will read letter by letter. So if you want to sell and be read, do not avoid, just use in very small. So if you, and now we're going to go back to that case, but step number 8 is always use a contrast checker and check for color blindness as well. As you are at it, it costs nothing to check, but yet a very, very recent survey by webaim.org says that 83.9% of websites have color contrast issues, and this is really the easiest thing to check. And you can tell your clients that just by being accessible, even just with a color, you are going to put yourself head and shoulders above 83.9% of the rest of the internet, which is a lot. So contrast checker, as you can see, back to the website that we were looking at earlier, not only was the typeface barely legible, it fails. It just basically fails the contrast check completely. But brightness is also an issue. That color has a real problem, because it has like 93%. There's a third problem as well that someone might see as well, but 93% brightness, it vibrates too much on screen. I have a number of vision issues that mean that this drives me bonkers. So if we go, I know we're a bit late, but I'll just quickly go, so it hasn't gone there, to my coolers. My coolers palette, because I will quickly show you a tip. I hope I can sign in here, because see, this is really rubbish. I shouldn't have to do this, but anyway, I won't go into that. I hope I can, yeah, good thing. Okay, so do you use this tool?
Yeah.
Coolers?
Yeah, I've seen it before. It's really cool.
I love it. So this is the palette for this. It's changed a bit, and it hasn't actually improved the UX. So this color, you can check in this color tool. This color is very, very, very bright. If I go to the HSB, you can see that the brightness is at 93. So I'm just going to give you a color trick here. So blindness problems all depend on hue. Hue is just another way to say color. It's the point. So if the color wheel has 360 degrees. A hue is just the point on the wheel where the color is. So this red sits at 358. So when I change the saturation of the brightness, I still have the same hue. I haven't changed the hue. So with a client who's very attached to their brand colors, you can play, to make their colors accessible and work with one another, you can play with the saturation and the brightness and say, it's still the same color. It will change the hex values, but it will still be the same hue. So you can make the color accessible, because this is not an accessible color. It's way too bright. So if you take down, I mean, it depends on the color a bit, and also on the browser, because browsers like Chrome, for instance, that I'm using now is nowhere near as bright as Firefox or Safari, which is very interesting. However, if I take it down to 80, it's already improved a lot, and it would probably be, if I went back to the contrast checker, it would help. But I can say, yeah, I'm still using your brand color. It's the same hue, because hue is the color. So this is a very useful tool to play with color. So, but also another problem here is, where was I? That and also you can check for color blindness in here. You can check all the different types of color blindness, and actually it's not too bad. But however, red and green normally are problematic colors to couple. So that's why, because you can never be sure how people see color. In fact, I'm still booked in for August for the talk on color, I think, Claudia, and
Yes.
which proves to you that color is an opinion. So yeah, there's so many comments. Cool. So never rely on color to convey meaning ever. Just don't do that, because it will fail.
Yeah, I think with traffic light, I mean, that would be a real problem.
Yeah, I mean, your traffic light has position as well, because
Yes.
otherwise, you know. So color independency is very important. So I sort of rushed through it because there is really, really much more. And like I said at the beginning, there is a whole course of it. This barely skims the surface. This is what the course is. And what I have, and it tells you much more, I mean, it goes into huge detail. And I created it actually because when I was looking for an accessibility typography course, and there wasn't one. There isn't one single, actually, design specific accessibility courses are not very, they're growing, that there aren't that many, but they're growing. But typography specific ones, there weren't any. And I think that, I mean, one of my points is that when you follow industry standards or best design practices, you are already basically or a lot of the way there. And even every single thing that I told you tonight is about best design practices. That's why I'm saying, in a way, every single thing that I've said is basic if you want. And yet, if you look at the vast majority of sites, they don't think about it. They fail in one aspect or another. And the HTML aspect, for instance, is hugely important, because how do you style things? People just will go and grab a heading that suits their style but doesn't suit the actual content. So that's something else that that is done in the course. How to tackle that, how to make sure that you've got content structure, but that you can also style everything the way that you want, tagging it properly with HTML. Because I know you're no-code people, but I don't know, and I mean, I am as well. It's not like I don't hand code my sites. I use WordPress. I'm absolutely not saying no to Webflow, not at all. But I think there must be ways to control your HTML that have to be.
Yeah, there is. It's actually, yeah, there is.
Yeah. So I would, and I'm looking there because I've got the screen there, but I do realize that my camera is there. So
No worries.
probably looks, the whole
Yeah,
thing
no,
looks
actually
really weird.
Webflow in terms of HTML is pretty strong, and when you publish the website, then it writes a really clean code. So this is really great, Piccia. Thank you so much. Just the best practices, as you're saying, and just the basics maybe for some, but it's really eye-opening when you see all these awards websites, and it's just like, do they actually respect these basics? Well, maybe not all of them. And it's, as you're saying, if you're just starting to design, having these couple tips in mind, you're already standing out from the crowd, because you're making something different, and you're making something more efficient, which is ultimately, what will give you the best result. So
because you are helping everyone, that's the whole point, really. That's something that is accessible, helps everybody, not just people who have. So what's in it for you? Is it cool if I talk a bit about not a bit, like 2 minutes about the course? Is that all right?
Yeah, sure, go ahead. Feel free to share it as well in the chat.
I will do that. So basically, what's in it for you is that it's estimated that 25% of the web is disabled. I mean, again, it's an estimation, and it's an estimation of the people that have some form of disability that are on the web at any time. So that's how you widen your audience. Then you create legally compliant sites, because, like I said, obviously, typography is not everything. It's not the whole world of accessibility, but it's a big, 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 big chunk of it. With gorgeous branding as well, because that's I talk a lot in the course about how to pick typefaces, and there's a lot, because I relish that. That's where I come from. I absolutely love it. So there's a real life project where we choose a typeface, and we look at the not only type anatomy, but also the history of type and so on, so that you always choose the, how type, I was saying earlier, it conveys meaning, it conveys a lot of things that are necessary for the branding. So sites that are more usable and therefore more profitable, with much better SEO, because that's not nothing. And they are much faster, actually. I don't think I put it here, but good typography, good content means faster sites as well, which means better UX for sure. And a new service to sell your clients, because it's going, if you specialize in anything, I would really recommend that it's accessibility, especially for us designers. I think that it's where it's at. So Great Karma, sorry, there's a typo there, but last but not least, absolutely Great Karma. And I have a special Floxies coupon, which is Floxies Rock, which gets you access to an exclusive variable fonts workshop that I will be selling. So it's not a discount, because I don't really do that, but
I don't believe
it's
in
more
discounts.
value. It's more, yeah, it's more value, which I think
we love value.
Matters more, because variable fonts are a really big thing to know about.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much for that, Piccia. Much appreciated.
I will probably, I don't know the price yet, but it will probably be around $99 mark. So here you go. And I absolutely I'm here for the pleasure of it. And I hope that this was, I hope it was helpful. I'd be really interested to know whether the people who are here found it basic, if you think that you already sort of knew everything, or if there were any moments when you thought, that's interesting.
Well, first off, I just wanted to say thank you so much for being here with us, Piccia. As you're saying, I found it really useful and insightful, because even though you might think these things are basics, yes, some of these things I already heard before, but I really think that there's never enough lessons you can learn about typography, or just to be reminded of these tips is really helpful to me, and some other things I didn't know. So it's, you know, to me it was
Good.
really helpful. I'm not sure about other people here, but feel free to, you know, just drop your comments. Some people are saying it was really great, I got to learn new things, so that's amazing. Yeah, feel free, people, if you want to just like ask Piccia any questions. I know we're
Please.
you know, run out of time, but
Sorry
Piccia,
for the technical
that's
hiccups.
fine.
Apologies.
Piccia is also in our Discord, so you know, you can reach out to her. Or if you know, for whatever reason, you can always send your questions to me and I can forward it to her. You know, just, we're a community, so we help each other out, and there are always ways to get where you want to be. So no problems.
Absolutely.
About that.
And also ping me on LinkedIn. You know, I tend to be on LinkedIn is probably the best place where to get me.
Let me share your profile. Okay, everyone here, if you've got any burning questions for Piccia, now is the time to ask. And if not, I will be shutting down the place in 5 minutes max. Thank you so much. I'm just fetching your LinkedIn, Piccia.
Yeah, no problem.
Well, while we wait, if you know, if people have got any questions, how was your experience here with us today?
My experience is I panicked a little because when I got back into Chrome, which clearly is the browser to use, then I was like, oh my God, how do I get in? I just but then it's super easy to, and I just thought, just use the arrows. No, it was great. It was really great to be here. Yeah, again, apologies for the technical hiccups.
No problem at all. It seems to be a tradition at Floxies. It seems to be a tradition at Floxies. All our guest speakers are always a bit having technical issues with the mic or the sharing the screen. So as you can see, we're a very chilled community, so it's fine.
Thankfully. So I was wondering what people think about the awards websites. That's something that with more time, I think would be a really interesting conversation.
Yeah, we might even choose a day where we go through some of the awards websites and we just analyze them, if you'd like to do that.
Yeah, because I think actually something else that I'm really interested in, and that will probably be the subject of talks in the future, is the role of creative accessibility, because people seem to think that if you create accessible websites, that means you can't be creative. But I really beg to differ, because it means having a very reductive vision of notion of creativity. Because if you think that you can only be creative by creating a site like the House of Piccia site, where I had no agency on that site, I wasn't able to do anything. It did things to me. I wasn't able to choose my experience. It was giving me the experience that it wanted, and it was all at the service of the imagination and creativity, and that's fine, you know. But you do a film like that, because a film, you receive it, you don't act in it, you're not meant to have any agency. But a website, to me, has a completely different function, and that's to give the user the agency. That's something I feel very strongly about. And most of the awards websites just don't do that. Most of the websites with animations have huge issues. So I think this would be, I feel, a really interesting conversation.
Yeah, definitely agree. It might even get to the point in the future where we do have all these fancy websites, and then there's a button that says, "Watch me in an accessible way," and then the website strips down.
That would be very useful, I feel.
Maybe we've just come up with a new strategy for accessibility and combining creativity as well, which I think, you know, you can definitely combine the two things by how to do that in a clever and pleasing way to the eye. So yeah,
absolutely, it's perfectly possible. It's just a different concept.
All right. Well, I feel like people here are fine. On the YouTube, UX Vocab Club says, "Thank you. It was so helpful. So many aha moments." So that's really great.
Great.
Great to hear. And Piccia, thank you so much again for being here with us. I hope to see you around a bit more. And yeah, let's
Of
keep in
course.
touch. And it was really, really helpful. You're such an expert, and it was such a pleasure to hear from you. So.
Thank you so much. It was great to be here. I'm honored to have been here. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
And I'll send you the recording so this will be
Great.
stuck in time. All
Great.
right.
Thank you so much.
See you.
Bye-bye.
See you soon. Bye, Piccia.
Bye.
And to the people here, I will probably see you next Wednesday. And yeah, take lots of care, and I'll see you soon. Bye. Bye, bye, bye. And to the people here on YouTube, thanks so much for sticking with us today. And yeah, I'll see you at our next Wonder Wednesday. Bye.